while we wait.
You can go ahead.
Good evening. Welcome to the Laurel Board of Trade Candidate Forum. My name is Bob Mignone, and I serve as the chairman of the Candidates Committee of the Laurel Board of Trade. Our moderator for the evening will be Pamela Hunter. She's on the left-hand side of my screen. And Pamela is the acting director of the Human Resources Division of the District of Columbia Court. Before we get into tonight's questioning, I want to make a couple of disclaimers. No candidates have prior knowledge of the questions, and as a nonprofit 501c6, the Laurel Board of Trade endorses no candidate. We are using the League of Women Voters protocols for asking the candidate questions so to eliminate any bias. The Laurel Board of Trade's Candidates Committee has selected questions submitted by residents of the city of Laurel and that were emailed to the Laurel Board of Trade. The committee has also generated questions. We have a lot of ground to cover tonight. First, I'd like to thank the City of Laurel and Laurel TV for televising tonight's event. Additionally, I'd like to thank the Laurel Board of Trade for its role in organizing this evening's event. And now I would like to tell you a little bit about the Laurel Board of Trade. The Laurel Board of Trade membership is mostly composed of Laurel-based businesses and has as its mission to further business and economic growth within the city of Laurel. I don't need to tell you that the COVID-19 global pandemic has had far-reaching impact on the daily lives of many of us, and of course, our business community in particular. The reason we are conducting a virtual event tonight is because of the pandemic. All of us would probably prefer an in-person event. As a result of the pandemic, we have not conducted for the last 2 years the Laurel Board of Trade's signature event. Some of the events we sponsor to help bring about greater knowledge of the Main Street businesses are the Main Street Festival, which brings over 50,000 people to Laurel that day. In August, the Back to School backpack and school supplies distribution for Laurel area school children, Riverfest Family Fun Day at Riverfront Park, and various business forums throughout the year. And one of our favorite events, which normally would be this Thursday, October 28th, is the Trick or Treat on Main Street, where hundreds of children, accompanied by their parents, visit Main Street businesses for a treat. This event is not taking place this year. However, there will be a spectacular event Friday, October 29th, from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Robert DePietro Center. This event is sponsored by the City of Laurel and the Laurel Lions Club. Because of the pandemic, we have been conducting also monthly virtual networking events to help the business community learn about each other. Well, enough about the Board of Trade. Let me outline the ground rules for tonight's questioning. Each candidate will begin with a 2-minute opening statement. The opening statement should address why the candidate is running for office and the 3 top priorities for your term in office. We will then go into questions that Pamela Hunter will ask each candidate. All candidates will be asked the same question. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the question and 30 seconds should there be a need for a follow-up rebuttal. Should the candidate want, they may request Pam to repeat the question. The candidates will be able to see Jim Cross, and Jim is the chairman of the Laurel Board of Trade, who will signal them as to how much time they have left. A goldenrod sheet of paper means you will have 15 seconds remaining, and a red sheet of paper will mean that your time has expired. Should any participant ignore the timekeeper, they will be muted and their sound will only be reinstated once they agree to the rule. Opening statements will be given in alphabetical order. Closing statements will be given in reverse alphabetical order. The questions will be asked in random order, thus giving every candidate the opportunity to be the first to answer a question. After all questioning is complete, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. For those wondering where Mayor Mo is, Mayor Mo is not here this evening. It's because he's not up for re-election this cycle. His term of office is 4 years, and the next mayoral election will be in 2023. Also, we have 2 council positions for election in Ward 1. Since there are only two candidates running in Ward 1, they both will become your council representative. Congratulations to Carl DeWalt and James Cole. In the contested races, we have 5 candidates running for 3 positions. And if you could raise your hands as I mention your name. 2 candidates that are running for 1 position of at-large council member, and they are Fred Smalls. Hi, Fred. And Martin Mitchell. Hi, Martin. We have 3 candidates are running for 2 Ward 2 positions. These candidates are Brencis Smith, Keith Sidnor, hi Keith, and Jeffrey Mills, who is not attending tonight. Remember, if you are registered to vote in Prince George's County and live in the city of Laurel, you're automatically registered to vote in the city. Early voting is Saturday, October 30th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Laurel Municipal Center. Election day is Tuesday, November 2nd from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Registered voters reside in either Ward 1 or Ward 2. You will be voting for 2 council persons representing your ward, as well as an at-large council person. The polling location for Ward 1 residents is City Hall, and the polling location for Ward 2 residents is the Robert DePietro Community Center on Cypress Street. We have 2 long-term council members who have decided not to run for re-election this year. They are Council Member Mike Les and current Council President Valerie Nichols. We thank both of you for your many years of service to the Laurel community. I would now like to turn the questioning over to Pamela Hunter to start with our first question.
Good evening, everyone. Our first question will start with Mr. Smith, followed by Mr. Mitchell, and then I will give the remaining order when Mr. Mitchell finishes his response.
I guess there are 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. We have to start with the opening
Question.
opening statement.
Opening statement, yes.
And we will do that in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening. I want to thank the Laurel Board of Trade for putting on tonight's forum and providing me an opportunity to share my vision for the city I love. My name is Martin Mitchell, as I said. I'm a lifelong resident of Laurel. My twin sons in the city of Laurel. I'm also a community organizer and your neighbor. And as a proud graduate of Laurel High School, where I still coach to this day, I'm looking to make Laurel better, not just for myself, but for my kids and all of us. And I look forward to answering all of your questions. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about me and what I'm hoping to do for this city. And we talked about 3 priorities very quickly. It would be revitalization of Main Street. It would be diversity in our city programming of events. And of course, the other thing would be a feasibility study to get a YMCA in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. We will now turn to Mr. Smalls for your opening statement.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you this evening, and thank you, Board of Trade, for putting on this forum. My name is Frederick Smalls. I'm running for the at-large seat on the City Council, and I'm running because I want to continue to play an active role in making sure Laurel is a great place for children of our community as they grow. I think I offer a big picture vision of what our community can be, and I believe I've delivered the results to prove that I can get the job done as a member of the City Council. Additionally, I've shown a commitment to improve my leadership skills so I'm better equipped to serve our community. Examples of that include 17 years on the City Council, 17 years on the Planning Commission, 5 times as Council President. Currently, I chair the University of Maryland Medical System's Citizen Advisory Commission. I chair the city's Board of Appeals. I serve as a commissioner on the Prince George's County Fire Commission, and I am currently finishing up 13 years as Assistant Secretary of State for Maryland. My priorities are affordable housing, public safety enhancements, and technology, converting our city to a smart city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smalls. We will now invite Mr. Brenton Smith to give his opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brenton Smith, as she stated. Over the past 2 years, I've served as your council member here in the city of Laurel. I've put the continued safety of our employees and our citizens as our top priority. Through several community events, I've been able to engage the great citizens of Laurel by addressing issues that have become a part of our day-to-day life. I've hosted the City of Laurel's largest Juneteenth celebration. I've hosted an expungement clinic with our state's attorney. And I've also even partnered with candidate Martin Mitchell for a food drive with the Prince George's County Young Dems, to name a few. In this next term, I plan to continue the work, and my plan is to attract more businesses here. My plan, more diverse events with our city programming, and also to continue to be an advocate for our constituents here in the city of Laurel. I look forward to questions, answering all your questions, and hopefully I can gain your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We will now turn to Mr. Sidnor for his opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, my name is Keith Sidnor. I want to thank the Laurel Board of Trade for hosting this event. And also I want to thank the citizens of Laurel for watching and participating. Let me tell you the reason why you should re-elect me on November 2nd, 2021, be your Ward 2 council member. I served as the council president from November 2019 to November 2020. I led the council in the height of the pandemic. I met with the mayor's senior leadership team to make important decisions to the council so we can benefit our citizens. I was the lead sponsor of the Law and Mercy Assistance COVID-19 Relief Bill, a bill that was impacted for families who can provide rental assistance, food assistance, utility assistance. I voted yes to the Law Strong Small Business Program. We provided over $271,000 to 19 businesses that was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. I coordinated with the Prince George County Health Department to get the mobile vaccine to our senior citizens in our apartments, but they can get the vaccine in place to stop the spread of the virus. I have not voted for a tax increase, and I've been on the city council in 2017. I was the lead sponsor to make June 10th official city holiday before the federal government passed legislation and before the state of Maryland passed it. My priorities are workforce development, affordable housing, and modifying our business grants on Main Street and the Baltimore-Washington corridor. So November 2nd, 2021, please re-elect Keith Sidnor to serve as your Laurel City Council member. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sidnor, and thank you to all of the candidates for your opening statements. And now we can begin with the questions. And we're going to pose our first question to Mr. Smith, followed by Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Sidnor, and then Mr. Smalls. And I will repeat that order to assist. So we'll start with the first question to Mr. Smith. What is your position on COVID-19 vaccinations, mask wearing, testing, and mandates of city personnel to be vaccinated? What should the city require at a minimum for retail and other business establishments to operate their businesses during the COVID pandemic?
My position is that I believe everyone should be vaccinated to help us get through this pandemic. I do believe in mask wearing because that is the advice of our professionals. As I'm not a healthcare professional, I'd like to leave that in the hands of them to tell us which way we should go. And can you repeat the last part of that question, ma'am, please?
Certainly. What should the city require at a minimum for retail and other business establishments to operate their businesses during the COVID pandemic?
It should just require them to have 6 feet, the same separation we've had over the past year and a half of this pandemic, as well as outdoor seating for restaurants, just to continue the safety and make everyone feel comfortable. I don't believe that we should go into a lockdown again. The numbers have not been as high as before. And I hope that we can get out of this if everyone follows the guidelines of the CDC.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell, same question. Please let me know if you need me to repeat the question.
Please repeat the question.
What is your position on COVID-19 vaccinations, mask wearing, testing, and mandates of city personnel to be vaccinated? What should the city require at a minimum for retail and other business establishments to operate their businesses during the COVID pandemic?
So to start off, I do believe in vaccinations. I am fully vaccinated myself. I believe that if we're talking about retailers and to say if they didn't want to mandate vaccinations, I think that they should do weekly rapid testing in lieu of vaccines. But I think that they should, of course, strongly encourage their employees, incentivize them to get vaccinated. And I think vaccinations are important. And during this campaign, I have worked with local businesses to bring vaccination clinics, and I'm currently working with the senior community and local pharmacy to do booster clinics. So I do think that it's important to continue stressing that people should get vaccinated and get their booster shots, so we can all, come outside and have fun.
Thank you. Mr. Sidnor, same question.
Yes, ma'am. Can you repeat the question again, please?
Certainly. What is your position on COVID-19 vaccinations, mask wearing, testing, and mandates of city personnel to be vaccinated? What should the city require at a minimum for retail and other business establishments to operate their businesses during the COVID pandemic?
Thank you. Yes, I support vaccination. I was the first to get the vaccination, the mayor myself, and all for city employees. As a mask wearer, I support small businesses to inquire their employees wear masks, customers wear masks, temperature checks as they come into the store, washing your hands, mandate for city employees. I'm still on the fence with that right now, but if more information come in that the numbers start increasing, then I will support a mandate of city employees to get the vaccine. They just got to understand that when you mandate a vaccine for city employees will lose their job. So we want to make sure that we put something in place that employees understand that, because it's very important for public health. If it's going to stop the spread, then I will, lean toward making it mandatory for the employees to get a mandatory vaccine. But right now, I'll monitor the numbers. I continue to listen to the science, gives an official decision on how we should move forward with that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Small, same question.
I have been fully vaccinated, and as a septuagenarian, I'm looking at getting the booster shot as well. I have what some would consider compromising health issues, so I certainly am in favor of vaccination. A minimum requirement, I think, for the city regarding businesses is mandatory mask wearing by employees and patrons to any business in the city. Governor Hogan, County Executive Elsa Brooks, and Mayor Mo are all very much behind vaccinations, mask wearing, and all of the protocols that are required to ensure the safety of the health safety of our residents. As the chair of the University of Maryland Medical System's Laurel Commission, one of the things that we'll be discussing at our next meeting is the COVID vaccine in the Laurel area.
Thank you. We will now move to our next question. We will start with you, Mr. Smalls. What are the key challenges and opportunities you believe we will face in the city of Laurel in the next 5 years?
Oh, that's a great question. Affordable housing is probably one of the things at the top of my list. Making sure that those folks who live and work in the city can afford to, rather those folks who work in the city can afford to live in the city. Making sure that there is adequate public housing. And when I say public housing here, I mean affordable housing for those residents. Currently, the city has a housing workforce program, and that's fine and sufficient for those folks who are teachers, firefighters, et cetera. But those folks who say work retail and other areas can't afford many of the lower rents, even in some of the newer properties. So I support the administration creating a task force, if you will, to look at some of the challenges facing the city with affordable housing and making recommendations to the mayor and city council.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Mills.
I
I'm
think-
sorry, Mr. Mills is not present today. Mr. Sidnor.
Thank you again. Once again, you repeat that question again, I appreciate it.
Certainly. What
I
are
mean
the
to work you.
What are the key challenges and opportunities you believe we face in the city of Laurel in the next 5 years?
Okay, thank you for that question. Key opportunity, I believe the businesses with the COVID-19 impacting people losing their jobs and things of that nature. So that's why I work with the mayor and the city council to create a workforce development program. It's an apprenticeship program to hire people into the building trades because we understand the infrastructure bills will be coming out. We're gonna need employees to work in those structures. The environment is always something important as a climate change. So we need to address our climate change with our Department of Maryland Environment Services, Prince George County Stormwater Management, and the Lower City Public Work, Department of Public Works to continue to sustain ways to keep the environment safe. So I say jobs and the environment are some key things we're gonna be facing, and housing always gonna be an issue because we need to pay people a living wage. They have a living wage, you can afford a decent house to live in.
Mr. Mitchell, same question.
I believe, what they mentioned was important, but I believe development. And I believe we need to guide development here in the city to make sure we're developing in a smart manner and make sure we're developing in a way that is best for Laurel's future. I think that an adequate public facilities ordinances would be great because like whenever a developer comes in and they want to build, there's not enough infrastructure, the developer pays a surcharge to make those services that aren't included. So the thought is we have to, for one, make sure that we guide development into the development that we want to see as a city, because I know over the years I've heard a lot of development concerns, especially with Tucson Green and now this new project on Cherry Lane. So the thought is yes, we are a growing city, a burgeoning city, but we have to develop smart and we have to make sure that Laurel stays green.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, same question.
I would say affordable housing in our environment. Those are two key areas that affect a lot of people that are trying to make a decent living, and environment can affect us health-wise over time. So I would definitely say those two. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to question 3. We will start with Mr. Mitchell, then to Mr. Smalls, Smith, and then Sidnor. Question 3, what would you like to see the City Council do that it is currently not doing? Again, what would you like to see the City Council do that it is currently not doing?
I think, I'm sorry, it's Jim talking. I think one of the things that we can do is, when we talk about community-based policing and we talk about something that is important right now is mental health. And, a lot of people's mental health are vulnerable. So this is a perfect idea to start the conversation around a mobile crisis unit, or basically making sure that, let's just say that there's a call that deals with someone that's going through a mental crisis, or they suffer from a mental illness, or someone who has an addiction problem. You would have someone who's trained to deal with the individual and to help the individual and to deal with it as a health matter instead of a criminal matter. So I think that we can look more into some non-traditional things or unconventional, but these are being tried other places in Oregon. It's been happening for 30 years. So yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Smalls?
The fiscal year 22 public safety budget is $12.5 million, which is 34% of the city's overall budget, and it includes a payment plan for our sworn officers. So public safety is extremely important. Our residents feeling safe in their homes, in their places of business. And I support looking at the police department's budget, perhaps redirecting some of those funds into areas such as programs, summer programs or after-school programs that help support our young people. A real return and focus on community policing, where our police officers are in the street, they're very visible, and they connect with our community. They're out of their cars and moving around the community. And one big piece that you hear all over the country is recruitment and retention. Recruit a more diverse police force without lowering our recruitment standards.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
All right, can I rebuttal?
Yes, 30 seconds, please.
So I think one, as I mentioned at the FOP write-in, we can up recruitment by lowering the threshold from marijuana usage being the disqualifier in the process. You know, there's been other jurisdictions that have done that. And then as far as we're talking about the kids, yes, camps are good, but we know that our kids are struggling. You know, mental health, teen suicides are up. So why are we going to try to police our way to prosperity? And I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, the original question, please.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What would you like to see the city council do that it is currently not doing?
I would love to see the city council start an initiative of voter outreach. These numbers are low. There's too many, if you look at the percentages of people that vote versus how many people are in our city, to me, it's terrible. And I would love to see everyone participating, or at least the majority participating. So you'll always have the majority saying how they want their city run and who they want running their city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sidnor?
Thank you. This is a tough question for me because I've been on the council for 4 years, and I think this city council has been very initiative in things we have done. So I'm gonna answer the question, but I just want to let you know the things we have done as a city council. Like I said earlier, making June 10th a official holiday before the federal government made it, changing Columbus Day to Indigenous People Day. Those are monument things that the city council have done since I've been on the council. Career job fairs. We never had career job fairs before in the city of Laurel. I hosted the first ever expungement program in the city of Laurel. So we highlight a lot of great things we have done. I'm quite sure there are some things we can do, but I'll just say outreach more with human services. You know, we can do a better job than that because human services can encounter everything, you know, recreation, health, and wellness, you know. So yeah, we can do a better job of human services.
Thank you. So we will move now to question 4. What are some enhancement efforts you would initiate to improve the appearance of Main Street? What are some of the enhancement efforts you would initiate to improve the appearance of Main Street? And we will start with Mr. Smith.
Well, first, I would try to get with the businesses and see if they'd actually want to do a community cleanup on that street as far as garbage or debris. And as far as the signs, I would make an initiative. The city already has a program right now with Main Street to help revitalize it. But as far as the appearance, I would try to attract different businesses that make the other businesses want to clean up their storefront and make it more attractive. It can still look historic, but can also look new at the same time. So I would work with them in trying to find a way to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
So before I decided to run for city council, I took a walk down Main Street with my entire campaign team and some residents, just to see what I can observe at a first glance walking. And the very first thing I noticed was there was a lot of splintered street poles. So very simply, I would replace those street poles with something more attractive and eco-friendly. Outside of that, I know that I've seen the banners for the Main Street Festival. I'm now seeing one for the Patuxent Council. That's great. I think that we should have banners year round. And I think that those banners should be designed by the Arts Council or the Arts Council in collaboration with Laurel High School art students. I think that, of course, on these local businesses, stronger code enforcement for commercial properties, because the thought is we have to make Main Street look attractive for one, the residents to visit, but also visitors. And outside of that, I think expanding public transit. So I think the thought is Main Street is definitely on the far corner of town. So some people who don't drive or have limited mobility have issues getting to Main Street.
Thank you. Mr. Smalls.
Many of the grant programs for Main Street are closed because funding's been dispersed already. I'd work with the administration, the council, and the mayor to ensure that adequate dollars are received in part via the American Rescue Plan, and they're allocated to funding and strengthening the Main Street programs to include a strong focus on investing in small businesses. I'd also support the commissioning of a Main Street Design Committee that works to create an attractive downtown for people to visit, live, and work. That committee could be made up of residents, business owners, property owners, and others to work together for the enhancement of Main Street. And educating business and property owners about good design work would be one of the things that this committee could take on to help enhance the image of each business.
Thank you.
Yeah, rebuttal.
30 seconds, please, sir.
I do think the rescue plan money is important. That $21.4 million that we received from the federal government. But I think that one of the things that is important is also community-based budgeting. So I know the city put out a survey in which they were asking the residents to respond on how they would like the money to be spent. I believe that, the city still needs a lot of work to get the survey out there. Speaking to a lot of members of the community, they weren't aware of the survey and still aren't. So I think that that's important.
Thank you. Mrs. Sidnor.
Yeah, thank you for the question. First of all, I want to just give thanks to the Economic Community Development Department in the city of Laurel for the great work they have done, especially with grants. Like I said in my opening statement, under the CARES Act, $271,000 was awarded to 17 businesses to recover the economic impact. And also money has been set aside, the American Rescue money to invest in businesses as well. And that's what I say about relocating money, giving people, businesses money to come into the city, a grant to start a business in the city, relocate inside the city of Laurel, whether it's on Main Street or Baltimore, Washington Corridor, increase our property taxes in our city, bring business, increase our revenue in our city, not the property tax. I don't want to increase the property tax. Let me make that clear. So we have a Main Street grant program, USA, under Maryland. So just modifying our grant programs to give business more incentive to come inside the city of Laurel and invest, because you understand that's what it's really about, giving people some money to come into the city. So that's what I'll continue to do.
Thank you. We'll move to question 5. The city of Laurel will be receiving $21 million in COVID relief funds from the federal government. These funds are to improve the quality of life for Laurel residents. Please explain areas where you would spend these funds, and do you believe residents should have input on where the spending should happen? We'll start with Mr. Sidnor.
Thank you. Actually, I'm a member of the task force for the American Rescue Plan, how the money is going to be spent. Yes, the citizens should have an impact on that. And so that's why the survey was sent out. I know Candidate Mitchell said that it probably wasn't sent out to enough residents, but we would still take on information if people had to spend the money. We have broke the money down into a lot of categories. I'll just mention a couple of them for time's sake. $345,000 we want to give to the public library of Prince George County. They can get Chromebooks to citizens and iPads if citizens can't afford it. Money going back into the apprenticeship readiness program to create jobs, $100,000 going into that. $40,000 going into the COVID relief for public health for people get vaccine and things of that nature. It's a list go on. I can't remember everything, but yes, the citizenship input. And once again, we would take that input, but we're doing a great job of how the money is going to be spent and how it's going to benefit the citizens of Laurel, and they will be happy.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, same question.
Councilman Sidnor, Keith Sidnor, he kind of took some of the stuff because as you all know, I'm on the council. But I would say with the vaccination, relief for COVID, for rental assistance and all that, as we did before. And as well as I do believe the citizens should have a say about what's happening, the same way you have a say about who's going there to represent you. Because it's not our money, it's not the council's money, it's the city's money. And so everyone should have a say.
Thank you. Mr. Small, same question.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. The city of Laurel will be receiving $21 million in COVID relief funds from the federal government. These funds are to improve the quality of life for Laurel residents. Please explain areas where you would spend these funds, and do you believe the residents should have input on where the spending should happen?
Regarding input, absolutely, I agree that residents should have that. Addressing our growing homeless population in the city is something that I think a chunk of that money should be appropriated to. For the healthcare, the housing, as we talked about earlier, for those folks who cannot afford some of the high rents that are presently in the city. But addressing the needs of our homeless community would be near the top of my choice for where some of those funds should be directed. Also, directing some of those funds toward technology infrastructure for the entire city. That I think is very important, establishing public and private partnerships with major corporations that would help bring that about. So those are just two of the things. There are many others that we could discuss, but those are definitely two that I think those funds could be used for.
Thank you, Mr. Smalls. Mr. Mitchell?
Please repeat one more time. I apologize.
Sure. The city of Laurel will be receiving $21 million in COVID relief funds from the federal government. These funds are to improve the quality of life for Laurel residents. Please explain areas where you would spend these funds, and do you believe residents should have input on where the spending should happen?
Well, just to start off where I left, absolutely, the residents should have input on what happens, with their money, the city's money, community-based budgeting, and that's why I think it was important for me to stress that the city can do a better job even now of getting this survey. And for me, something that's of interest, of course, rental relief, homeowner relief, addressing the digital divide, and also continue moving Laurel into the future as far as making sure that we are a smart city of excellence. There's still a lot of businesses who are struggling, even though we've given grants out to some businesses. Some of those businesses they didn't qualify for those grants, so I believe we need to give more businesses out to our small business owners in the city, so they can continue to survive and thrive.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Mitchell. What is your current understanding of the amount of crime, vehicle speeding, and vehicle noise in the city of Laurel? What actions would you take to reduce crime in our city?
Well, of course, earlier I mentioned about the introduction or the exploration of the mobile health crisis unit. I think that's one thing. But also, I'm very aware of the speeding issue. I wasn't nearly as aware before city council, but talking to primarily a lot of the Ward 1 residents, speeding is a big issue, especially coming from like Howard County. So I think that a traffic, so that would be kind of step one, making sure that a traffic study is done and making sure that there's actually traffic calming measures put in place, not just the speed camera, because the speed camera is helpful, but a speed camera is temporary. The thought is like when you see a speed camera, after a while, you know where the speed cameras are. So you slow down and then you speed up after you pass the speed camera. So I'm being honest with you. I think that we should look at more traffic calming measures. I know that emergency vehicles sometimes they bump, maybe speed.
Thank you. Mr. Sidnor, same question.
Yes, Madam Moderator, can you repeat that question again, please?
Yes, what is your current understanding of the amount of crime, vehicle speeding, and vehicle noise in the city of Laurel? What actions would you take to reduce crime in our city?
All right, first of all, I want to thank the Laurel Police Department for the outstanding work they're doing to keeping our city safe. As for speeding has been an issue in our city forever. We had, the city council voted to do a traffic analysis, a study to find ways that we can, to help people stop speeding, and also parking analysis, also visibility. The noise coming by cars. I had a conversation with our state senator, Jim Roosevelt. That is something they're going to take up in Annapolis this January, because of some cars are manufactured that way, and some people put loud mufflers on their cars. But I'm hoping that Annapolis will come up with a bill that they can pass down to the city council as well as the county council, but we can have an impact on that to reduce the noise. Once again, the crime is not that high in Laurel. It's a nuisance crime. We do have a little crime, but overall, our police officer does a great job protecting us. I just want to thank him again for all the work they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Same question.
I can piggyback off Keith with the traffic feasibility study we're doing right now. We just voted on. That's coming up, so we'll be waiting on those results. That will deal with parking and hopefully help with the speeding. I also agree with Mr. Mitchell with the traffic calming that needs to happen here. I spoke to Ward 2 residents just yesterday, and they're talking about speeding on Oxford Drive. People just running the stop sign because of where they're placed, hoping for a flashing stoplight like we have also in the Wellington community. So looking at stuff like that, I would try to do, as well as work with the Laurel Police to see what ideas they have. I also, like Mr. Sidner said, I'd like to thank the Laurel Police for keeping us safe here. That is one of the reasons why I moved and stayed in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smalls?
I think the response time for our Laurel Police Department is probably second to none. I've talked to a number of residents, both in the city and residents just immediately outside of the city in Prince George's County side, who are rather jealous about the response times of our local police department and their ability to get to a crime scene in a matter of minutes. The council that I served on was one of the first in the region to approve body cameras for our police officers. And over the years that I served on the council, not once did the council have any major issues with the police department's budget. So making sure that both our citizens and police officers are protected. I agree with what seems to be the consensus of the candidates and the incumbents that reducing speed via traffic calming devices, not just stop signs, is a way. If you look at Montpelier, for example, and areas like that, can be one example of traffic calming.
Thank you. Our next question, we're going to start with Mr. Smith. What specific ideas would you pursue to support the local small business community?
I would support more money in their grant programs for them to have that to help them live through, especially through this pandemic. I would support a wide range of events where people can even come out and get to know them. I've hosted an event, several events actually, during my term, so that people may meet some of the small businesses here in the city of Laurel and in the surrounding area. I think it's imperative that we stand behind them because they're a pillar of our community, especially the Main Street area. And I'd support any notion that would bring them more business.
Thank you. Mr. Sidnor?
Yes, ma'am. Repeat the question one more time.
Yes. What specific ideas would you pursue to support the local small business community?
Yeah, excellent question again. The Laurel Board of Trades have been around forever. No disrespect. You guys did a great job of doing things in our city. So I'll continue to work with the Laurel Board of Trades, what kind of ideas they have to bring more business into the city. Along, once again, I'm all about grants. Grants are the most easiest, effective method to bring business inside the city. So work with Laurel Board of Trade, not only at the Baltimore Washington corridor, we got a nice town center out there, How can we get more stores to come out? Continue to work on our economic community development department. They does, once again, I praise them. They do an excellent job. They are the face of the city. They're the ones that really talk the deals out, and the council pretty much just approved the grant programs where they want to go in. So working with those three individuals, three departments, Laurel Board of Trade, Economic, Community Development, the Board of Washington Quarter of Businesses, and to bring more business to our cities. And also a survey from our citizens, what they need as well. What would they like to see come inside the city?
Thank you, Mrs. Sidnor. Mr. Smalls?
Expanding the grant program certainly would be one of the areas I recommend starting in. I've seen from experience several businesses who have not found the grant program as it currently exists to be adequate to meet their needs. But also just appropriating more dollars to the program. I mentioned earlier about commissioning a Main Street design committee that would include the Board of Trade, business owners, property owners, and residents of the city to look at not just our Main Street, not just large businesses, but our small businesses specifically in ways that the city can support and enhance the offerings for our small business to support them.
Thank you. We seem to have lost the connection of Mr. Mitchell. If he is able to rejoin us, we will give him the opportunity to respond to any questions that he missed. Moving to the next question, we will start with Mr. Smith. As Laurel grows and we have many jobs available, it is concerning that our stock of affordable housing is dwindling. Minimum income housing units serve a purpose, but as a community, the hope would be that you could find a place to live in Laurel. For younger people, retail and food service workers in particular, that is not the case. How do you see a response to the problem?
Funding a program that basically helps with the affordable housing by giving tax breaks to those who have lower rent or lower rents for their apartments, which the city actually is doing, rolling out something with right now. I would love to see more of that so that more people can live here where affordable. I can tell you right now, 2 bedrooms around here are probably between $1,600 to $1,900. That's not affordable to someone working anything under $20 an hour. So I would definitely fund a grant program where not a grant program. I would also have money appropriated for tax cuts for apartment complexes that do provide lower rents.
Thank you. Mrs. Sidnor?
Sorry, I keep being your moderator, but repeat the question again, please.
Certainly, it's not a problem at all. As Laurel grows and we have many jobs available, it is concerning that our stock of affordable housing is dwindling. Minimum income housing units serve a purpose, but as a community, the hope would be that you could find a place to live in Laurel. For younger people, retail and food service workers in particular, that is not the case. How do you see a response to this problem?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And really, I don't have a really good answer for it, to be honest with you, because the median incomes in the city is around $70,000. And affordable housing is going to be based on the median income. And folks like with that range is going to be paying, like Mr. Smith said, $1,700, $1,800 for a 1-bedroom apartment. So a living wage, I work on a living wage. We do have affordable housing legislation on the table for 25 dwelling units or less. We putting that process out. We do have affordable housing here, apartments. I think it's 3 apartment units we have inside the city of Laurel. But that's a constant battle that we're always going to have because of this area being, the corridor of Baltimore, Washington, D.C., when people are making a sufficient amount of money. And unfortunately, but I really don't have a great answer, but I'm willing to continue to work with the local governments to find out, because the whole area, it's not just in Laurel, it's Alexander, Upper Prince George County as well. So it's something local governments got to. I think my time stopped.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Smalls?
I think the city of Laurel, who has its own planning and zoning, has a responsibility to not only provide housing for those higher income residents, but certainly we have a number of residents who work in retail, as you stated, and service areas that can't afford $1,500, $1,600 a month housing. So I propose the creation of public-private partnerships for construction and renovation of buildings, looking at trends that are taking place across the country and in fact across the world that address affordable housing. I think we could look at modifying the city's unified development code regarding multifamily dwellings also of 100 dwelling units. And I think there's some work that could be done there, as well as modifying the minimum 3% of what's considered workforce housing in the city, enhance that number and make it to be much more affordable. Again, I've heard many people complain that is that red? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back, Mr. Mitchell. The question on the table now, as Laurel grows and we have many jobs available, it is concerning that our stock of affordable housing is dwindling. Minimum income housing units serve a purpose, but as a community, the hope would be that you could find a place to live in Laurel. For younger people, retail and food service workers in particular, that is not the case. How do you see a response to this problem?
Of course, one of the things that I would say is, for any new development projects that come in, whether it be mixed use or not, we have a sliding scale for like rent. So basically, it would allow, a mixed variety of people to live in this, facility, this domicile. So I think that's important, making sure that, we push the developers and, the management companies to offer this sliding scale in these, and a certain amount of apartments for a fixed rate and to remain at that rate. So they, that it can, of course, sustain themselves.
Thank you. And because we understand that there was a connection issue on your end, we will backtrack for one moment to the previous question that you were unable to respond to, and I'll give you an opportunity to respond. And the question was, what specific ideas would you pursue to support the local small business community?
Well, of course, the first thing I would do is, have like a business roundtable discussion to, for one, hear the needs of these small business owners. Two, offer more business grants. Outside of that, I think I heard Councilman Smith, he mentioned a lot about hosting events. So making sure we continue to host events, partner with community partners, because of course, these events invite tourism to Laurel, and also highlight them. I think that's one thing that we've done well is, highlight the local businesses that we're frequenting during this campaign. And, I would say that we have really contributed to the Laurel business economy by basically shopping Laurel and making sure that, my campaign, everything generally comes from Laurel. So I want to say we've helped the economy and we look to continue.
Thank you. So the next question we will start with Mr. Smalls. In Howard County, the Stronach Group is building a 1,000 residential and 650,000 square foot commercial mixed use development called Paddock Point in North Laurel. What impacts do you see this having on the city of Laurel? How do you see our historic train station surviving?
Excellent question, and it's something that's been discussed for quite some time. The impact, one of the major impacts on the city is going to be vehicular traffic. Traffic is going to significantly increase for folks traveling south on Route 1 and in the general Laurel area. So that poses a safety question. The train station, certainly the proximity of the train station currently to the train stop that's further down north in Howard County has also for some time been up for discussion and debate. I'm hoping, and there have been many proposals that have been raised about the future of the train station, discontinuing train service there and turning it into a visitor center, et cetera. Much more to come.
Thank you. Mr. Sidnor.
I got that question, Madam Moderator. Yes, that's so far we have been working with the developers of that project. We can have a walk bridge come through there. That way that we don't lose our station and they don't make a new station out there. So that process is ongoing talk. I'm quite sure we can come to a resolution that we can that train station they're trying to put out there, that won't put out there. We'll keep the train station here and on the Mark train station here in Laurel for the individuals who live in those commercial projects can walk to the Main Street Laurel station. So that's what we're going to continue. The process still continue under negotiation. The mayor, I've been talking to the Howard County supervisor as well. I met with the developers one time when I was a council president with the mayor and the city administration. So it's ongoing talk. And so we'll keep the citizen posted. And traffic as well, it's going to be traffic. That's a continuous problem. That's why we're doing a traffic analysis so we can figure that out. And that's going to be taken into consideration as well for the traffic study.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
Well, of course, I'll be the first person to say that I wish that the Green Line, the Metro Green Line, extended to Laurel. If we didn't have a MARC station in Laurel, that'd be devastating. Of course, I do have confidence in Keith and what he's saying that they're going to work it out and make sure, that the station remains. And of course, one of the things he mentioned was traffic. But, I always like to look at the glass half full. So I would say that increased tourism. We can expect probably increased tourism in the city and around the greater Laurel area. That's probably what I would say. And of course, more people, hopefully they're going to be spending more money in that area, in the surrounding areas. So that's just, also recognizing that there's going to be more traffic congestion, hopefully no more speeding. But yes.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Several of the candidates took pretty much all the answers that are pretty much that are clear, which are going to be traffic, tourism, as Mr. Mitchell said, and definitely tourism will bring more people here, which I do think can attract more business from having more people in our area, bringing different businesses here and even hosting a wide variety of events where that revenue can come back into our city so it can benefit our quality of life here. I'm a frequent rider of the MARC train. Right now I'm in my office down in the Navy Yard area. I ride that train to work. Sometimes I drive in. So we're definitely going to be fighting to keep that station running.
Bob said, he asked me, but I turned a little bit. He said, could you straighten out your photo on Zoom?
I think we're hearing some extra conversation. I left out of it. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. So for our next question, and before we have our next question, I want to take a moment to do a time check with Mr. Mignon. Bob, how are we doing on time?
We're doing fine. So
Great.
far, so good.
Thank you. So we'll move to our next question. What will you do to help protect Laurel's environment, restore riverfront habitat, Laurel Lakes, and extend the trail along the Patuxent River so it will connect to other trails? Again, what will you do to help protect Laurel's environment, restore riverfront habitat, Laurel Lakes, and extend the trail along the Patuxent River so it will connect to other trails? We'll start with Mr. Sidnor.
Thanks for the question. We're in the process of doing that right now. I think the Park and Recreation Department is connecting the Riverfront Park to Howard County so these citizens can do a bike trail. They can ride their bikes and walk from Howard County to Laurel, Main Street, and things of that nature. Always continue to work with the Maryland Department of Environment Services, the Prince George County Department of Environment Services, Department of Public Works. So Laurel does an excellent job. We won the award Sustainability City. So protecting the river and environment is our #1 priority. Like I mentioned in one of my platforms, that we can continue to work those parties to get those things done. And I think we should be fine for the next generation once we keep it up.
Thank you, Mr. Smalls.
As many of us know, for some time, Laurel Lake area was, in a word, an embarrassment to the city. That has been through the support and assistance and funding of county and state funds, city funds, the efforts of the mayor and city council to enhance that area into a showplace now. So that's one example of how the city has worked during the time that I served on the council to improve the lake. I think many of you know that the city does not have real control over the waters of the lake, but the surrounding environment, the grounds around the lake, the city does. Continue to work with the state and with the county on the upper streams that in making sure that there is proper sediment control in the upper streams that wash down into Laurel Lake would certainly be one of those environmental enhancements that we will continue to keep an eye on.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
And I'm working with the administration and as well as the state and county government to keep our environment clean, as well as listen to our professionals we have here, right here in our community. We have several groups and several professionals that give ideas all the time, and I'll continue to keep an open ear to go in that direction of keeping our community healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, I appreciate Councilman Whittenor for giving further guidance about what's going on in Howard County and how we're going to connect the bridge. That's very important for, of course, making our walkable. The thought is we want to take more cars off the road. We want to promote health by encouraging people to walk and making areas and the roads more walkable. And one of the things I would do is water waste treatment. As your councilman, I'll work with the mayor to secure funding to concur for waste management grids. Also, I'll call the Maryland Department of Environment to step up their compliance and enforcement efforts to make sure that the waste management goes into our public that waste management that goes into our public waterways. And that is just one way that I'm going to protect Laurel on protecting the Bay and protecting our community and protecting.
Thank you. Our next question. What is your understanding of the state of secondary education in the city of Laurel? What specific ideas would you promote to enhance and support the students of Laurel? We'll start with Mr. Smith.
I would support our education committee still working closely with our school board member and our local teachers here at our high school and our schools here. I would support, I'll give kudos to Keith Sidnor for even pushing, he's been pushing for an after school program. I support that as well. And we haven't been able to do any of that right now because of course we're in a pandemic and we have to focus on keeping the city safe. So, but I would support any efforts to help our children learn, any partnerships, just to enhance in the quality of education that our students here. Of course, you all should know the city is not over education here in the city, but we can help and assist.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, as many of us are aware that, the schools fall under the county's jurisdiction. The thought is, and one of my first questions to some of my colleagues was like, well, how often do you have conversations with the school board representative? And the response was not that often. So the thought is that should probably be the first step to have an education committee, and I applaud them for all of the hard work that they do. But I also believe that, the council members should meet quarterly, if not more regularly, with the school board member to make sure that they're hard at work, advocating for our students. Outside of that, I think that, we definitely need to offer more coding programs So that is just something that I would throw in there. And, I do education committee, I will say again, but I think that have more regular conversations as well as a body to our school board.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Smalls?
The city and primarily the city council has had a long-standing relationship with our schools as well as our school board representatives. I personally have spent a number of hours in Laurel High School, Laurel Elementary, Scotchtown Hills, reading to the students, doing career day and a number of other things, as well as working with our school board representatives over the years to help bring quality education to our community. I think, in fact, I was talking to a potential Laurel resident over the weekend, and one of the things I told her when she asked about schools in Laurel is that the community embraces and supports the school, the city, as well as the residents of the city. I was one of the first to be involved with the development of the. Go ahead before you mute me. I'll have a lot to say.
Thank you. And it's a topic that you should have a lot to say about. Thank you, sir. Mr. Sidnor.
Yes, ma'am. Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Certainly. What is your understanding of the state of secondary education in the city of Laurel? What specific ideas would you promote to enhance and support the students of Laurel?
Excellent question. I'm all for education. I believe that we not only just focus on just a college education as well, but apprenticeship readiness programs as well. Everybody don't want to go to college, and that's great. But some folks can go to apprenticeship readiness program and work right away as soon as they start the apprenticeship program. Start off with minimum wages, about $15 an hour, and we can be a master drummer and making $40 an hour. We have a First College Bound nonprofit organization here in the city of Laurel that we come out of the mayor community promotion budget that we fund that. And First College Bound, what he does is help individuals fill out financial aid, talk about different colleges they want to go to, if they want to go to college, things of that nature. I'm a big component of after school programs. I go to Laurel High School, registering students to vote and talking to them about civic government. So education is key. We have to invest in our children's education and after school program once again, but college is something that is optional. And I think that in the apprenticeship program should be also available as well. We're talking about education after high school. So.
Thank you. Moving to our next question, and we'll start with you, Mr. Sidner. We'll stay right in your lane. As a council member, how will you work with the city of Laurel to help ensure the Main Street Facade Improvement Program continues to meet the needs of property owners on Main Street?
Thanks for that question. I would continue to work with those programs, but I think right now they have match program. I would like to just have a grant program, relocation or facade program to fix their businesses up, things of that nature. So I support that 100%. Like all the council members said, all the candidates said that they want to invest in Main Street. They want to increase the budget by giving money to those businesses so they can stay in Laurel. So I'll continue to work with Economic Community Development Department to find ways that we can give more money to these businesses where they can expand.
Thank you. Mr. Smalls?
Starting with educating business and property owners about good design and enhancing the image of each business, incorporating, I think, our arts district into that, where we're enhancing the streetscape of Main Street, but working very closely, as I stated earlier, with commissioning a work group or a street design committee to bring in businesses, residents, and the development community into ways to enhance and improve the offerings of Main Street, because the only way you're going to really get the foot traffic on Main Street is to have some place for people to go.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Repeat the question, please.
Certainly. As a council member, how will you work with the city of Laurel to help ensure the Main Street Facade Improvement Program continues to meet the needs of property owners on Main Street?
I would have a roundtable with the business owners, as well as I would suggest working with the Department of Economics to try to get different types of businesses that will attract a lot of people there, that will help bring money that will trickle over to the other businesses around it. We have some great businesses on Main Street right now, but there's some space there for other businesses to come that will attract a lot of people. And with a lot of people comes a lot of money, and I believe it will trickle over to their neighboring businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, of course, back on the focus of working with the program. I think that what Mr. Smith said, Councilman, is a great idea. At first, we need to have a conversation with these business owners to see, for one, some of the concerns or needs they might have in revamping their space, the aesthetics. And I think he also brought up a good point, is just attracting different businesses. I have seen Main Street over the past few years. They now have more minority-owned businesses, but I think we should continue diversity in businesses and making sure that we invite, businesses to come to Main Street. From what property owners telling me, it's rather affordable to own a business on Main Street comparative to other areas in the city. And the thought is, I would love an Ethiopian restaurant. I know, talking to some people, they would love an Ethiopian restaurant. We would love other things like responsible adult entertainment. That's one of the things when I think about outside of.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to the next question. Companies like American Express, as well as local chambers of commerce, support local small businesses by promoting a buy local standard. Recognizing that not everything the city buys is available from local businesses, would you initiate or sign on to a resolution requiring that the city purchase those items it needs that are available locally from local businesses? If so, why? If not, why? And we will start with Mr. Sidnor.
That's an excellent question. I wouldn't necessarily support a resolution that only you can buy stuff from the city of Laurel, because, there might be some things that they might not have. You got to get from other areas. I do want to increase our business inside the city of Laurel, but I don't want to just pigeonhole people just so only can shop at one place inside the city. I think that's too demanding on a vendor to just shop inside the city of Laurel.
Mr. Smalls.
As part of the criteria in the city's purchasing plan, one of the things that was discussed and at least partially initiated was looking at the offerings of local and small businesses first when considering making purchases. And then if there was not an adequate small business or local business that can meet the city's needs, then you branch out to other areas. But you look at what's local to you first and then branch out. And that was something that the city did for some time. I'm not sure since I've been out of play for a while if that is still in place, but I think it was a planned and option that worked well when it was in effect.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
I do agree. I would like them to look locally, but just as Mr. Sidner said, I wouldn't demand that of them, that they only stay within, because what if, like I said, if they don't provide it here, where else would you go? And I wouldn't want it to be, I wouldn't want them to not be able to meet their needs just because they have to stay within the city limits.
Thank you. We seem to have lost the connection with Mr. Mitchell again, but we will again come back to him if he's able to rejoin us. We will move on to the next question, and we will start with Mr. Smith. How is the city doing? What is the city doing well for the community, and what do you see as the city's unresolved challenges?
Repeat that question one more time. Sorry.
Yes. How is the city doing? What is the city doing well for the community? And what do you see as the city's unresolved challenges?
The city does well with their compost program, as well as they do well with their recycling here in the city of Laurel. Their challenges, as I mentioned before in my opening statement, voter outreach. There's no possible way. The city does well with running the city. They're fiscally smart. The city has grown over the years. Taxes have not raised, and we can all applaud them for that. But voter outreach, that's so important. There's no possible way we can know what the majority of everyone would like if we're not reaching out to them. So I believe that's just our one area we can spend some time on finding ways to improve that. But as far as doing well, the city does well with a number of their programs. And I just think outreach and diversity in programming is two areas they can grow in.
Thank you. Mr. Sidnor, same question.
Thank you for the question. The city does well with our tax base. We grow our city every year since I've been on the council. The revenue has been increased in the city. So we do well in developing our city. Snow removal. Our public works department does an outstanding job removing the snow from the street. Our park recreation does an outstanding job providing activities for our adults, our seniors, our children, every year, different holidays and things of that nature. How we can do something that we need to work on, our traffic. Once again, that's why we did an analysis of our city. We mentioned, several candidates mentioned before, the speeding, the visibility of parking on various streets, or Ward 1 and Ward 2. So hopefully when that traffic study come back in 90 days, we get a better report that we can enforce the speeding, enforce the parking issues, things of that nature from the experts. So yeah, that's what I say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smalls?
Fiscal stability is one of the things that the city does extremely well. Making sure that our retirees' pension plans are properly funded and that there is money going into those funds on a regular basis to meet or exceed the recommendations from the actuaries regarding the city's pension plans and its retirees. And just the overall level of service from all of our departments to the residents and businesses of the city are things that the city does well. I think there could certainly be some enhancements when it comes to diversity in the senior levels of our city government. And looking at our police department, for example, I think there definitely is room for some improvement in diversity, again, without lowering standards, making sure that we have the level of, it looks yellow from my screen.
Go ahead and come finish your answer, Mrs. Smalls.
Well, just making sure or working to ensure that our police department reflects what our community looks like.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell, we're going to come to you with this question. How is the city doing? What is the city doing well for the community? And what do you see as the city's unresolved challenges?
Am I able to go back to the other one, or do I got to answer this one first?
If you could answer this one first, and then we'll give you an opportunity to go back to the question you missed.
Okay, and repeat that one more time.
How is the city doing? What is the city doing well for the community? And what do you see as the city's unresolved challenges?
I think the city's doing well in like emergency services. I think that we are, we do very well in responding to emergencies, and so that's something I can commend the city on. And I think that one thing that we should do is we should look at hiring and procurement through a racial equity lens, and have a policy behind that. The thought is we need to diversify, we need equity, we need inclusion for personnel and procurement, ensuring that procurement is transparent, fair, and that it gives minority businesses the opportunity to compete. So, to go back, we don't even have to go back. Yes, we should give local businesses preferences in the contracts with the city. The thought is like not requiring, but making sure that they have first right. the thought is like if we contribute to these local businesses and these local business owners, they would contribute directly back into the economy and the community. So, you know, I wouldn't send contracts out of the city if it could be filled right here in the city.
Thank you. And thank you for your excellent recall for that question. And that we have reached the end of the questions that we have for the candidates this evening. I want to thank you all for your time this evening. I am going to turn this over to Bob Mignon with the Laurel Board of Trade. And before I do that, we need to offer you an opportunity for closing remarks, and each candidate will have, is it 1 minute or two? 2 minutes, 2 minutes. So you'll have two minutes for your closing remarks. And we're going to start with Mr. Mitchell, then Mr. Smalls, Mr. Smith, and then we'll close with Mr. Sidnor. So we will turn it over to you, Mr. Mitchell, for your 2-minute closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a great time with you guys here today. And I want to say it's been an honor. Laurel is a great city on the cusp of transformational change. And I'm an agent of demographic change and change of perspective, a blend of new perspective, but also my experience at every level of government to deal with these problems. I've worked at the federal, the state, the county, and of course on the Board of Appeals for the city of Laurel. I respectfully ask for your vote to build a more vibrant Laurel, a safer Laurel, clean air, and a more vibrant downtown. I also don't look to govern without you, but with you, because we know what the city needs, and we will have that moving forward. So thank you very much tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Smalls.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter, and members of the Laurel Board of Trade. It's been an outstanding experience here tonight. I've raised my children and my grandchildren here in Laurel. And as I said in my opening statement, that's been one of the driving forces for me in my public service over the years. I started out many years ago as my HOA president. I moved to being a PTA president at Scotchtown Hills Elementary for a number of years, long before I was involved with city council and any elected seats. So serving the community, serving the residents of this city in any capacity that I can have always been a driving force for me. As a proven municipal leader, I've been able to respond decisively and creatively to challenges facing the city of Laurel over the years, and promoting it as a safe place to live, work, play, and raise a family. I definitely would appreciate your support and your vote to return me to the city council and to continue my service to this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smalls. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you to the Laurel Board of Trade for hosting this. Thank you to everybody watching. Thank you to the candidates for participating, for stepping up to want to serve your city. I can't express enough how important this is. I've started 2 years ago on this council in an unprecedented time during a pandemic, not being able to focus on some of the initiatives I wanted to. Well, hopefully so, if voted back, we can make it out of this pandemic and I can focus on some of that community engagement I would love us to have. What I would believe would bring a quality of life, a change for everybody. And I believe that will also bring more dollars to our city, which are important. I'm asking for your support to go back and advocate for you. You're looking at an accessible candidate. You're looking at an accessible council member even right now. You can access me through Instagram, Councilman_Smith, Facebook, Francis for Maryland, or my city cell. You'll see me out and about walking, stop and talk to me. I don't have a problem with that. If not support for me, I'm very much so imploring you all to step out and get to the polls November 2nd. It's not about me, it's about you doing your part. But I very much so would love your support and hope to see you guys at the finish line as we close out on this election. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Sidnor.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for hosting this event as well, and Lower Board of Trades for hosting this event also. Thank the citizens of Laurel for watching this event. And I appreciate your vote on November the 2nd. I've been serving my whole life. I served 24 years, United States Navy. I've been a mentor of the Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I mentor at-risk youth at the Maryland Free State Academy. Service is what I do. I do it with passion. I do it with my heart. And I want to continue to serve you for the next 2 years, because I think these 4 years I've been in office, we've done some wonderful work together. You can look at my track record, the things I've done, and I'm quite sure if you reelect me, we can do bigger and better things in the future of Laurel. So look for your support on November 2nd. Thank you all.
Thank you again to all of the candidates. Bob?
Thank you, Pam. This concludes our candidates evening. I want to thank you, Pam, for doing your outstanding contribution tonight. Really wonderful. And I think Kim Rao deserves a round of applause here too for putting this whole thing together. This is our first, obviously, Zoom call in this kind of a format. It certainly is interesting. We had some challenges, but everybody overcame them, and congratulations. So thank you to the candidates. You guys did a great job tonight. You really did. And enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Right.